Good evening, everybody. Good to see you. Just a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Good to see you guys. One of the things I would ask, just we have a pretty good sized chat tonight so far. I'm sure we'll have some more checking in as this progresses, but please keep yourself muted just so that you guys can hear everything really good that we're going to go over tonight. But happy Sunday. Great to see you. Raise your hand if you had a chance to enjoy some of that nice weather this weekend. Anybody? Oh man, I see some hands in there. I know I did. You might notice I'm a little redder than usual. It's not because I'm mad. I'm just sunburned. So I had a chance to go out and go for a nice run today, cut the grass, do all the fun stuff. So I'm hoping you guys had a chance to do that as well. And happy May. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the month of April just kind of flew right by, and we've had so many changes and things that have happened that it's just everything's just progressed so quickly. So great to see you guys tonight. Happy May to everybody. Today's May the 3rd, 2 days after Honcho's birthday, in case you guys are wondering. I know some of you are still celebrating Honcho's birthday. And I know that he really enjoyed the emails and things that a lot of you guys had sent him, the videos and such. I know that was really cool for him. So thank you guys that were able to participate and be a part of that. And also, just a kind of I guess, an update of the last maybe 6 weeks or so, just some of the things that have come to fruition and that we've accomplished. We were going through the lists and things in the last couple of days, and we've actually seen somewhere over 30 belt promotions in our school over the last month or so. So let's give those guys a hand. That's fantastic. We've seen a lot of great progress out there. Not to mention a great many students that have made stripe testing progress as well as progress in so many other ways. I'm also happy to say, just to give you guys an update, we have around 30 students or so that are black belt candidates right now that are getting prepped to test for their next level of black belt. A few of them even testing for their first level of black belt. And I'm happy to say that they're on schedule. They've been working really hard in their classes every week. And so we've really seen some really good strides and some great progress. It really down the pipeline, right? We talked about the black belts, but we've also, I even see on the chat tonight a few of our newest students that have actually become members of the school and joined our school since we've been purely virtual. And so it's great to have you guys with us tonight too, as a part of tonight's chat. That's just so cool to see that come to fruition and to have all of you along with that. And then of course we've seen our little dragon students make some great strides. We had some great classes this Friday. They did a wonderful job. And we've also seen our youth and our adult karate students do well. Miss Ambrosia and I were talking the other day about our Arnis Aikido and Masters Club contingent and how well they've been doing with some of the skills we've been working, the footwork, the body positioning, everything's just been great, and the energy on the floor has been great. And I think everybody's getting a little bit more used to working in the atmosphere that they have. And I don't just mean martial arts, but whether they're working from home, going to school at home, and of course training martial arts at home. I think everybody's getting a little better at that and figuring out how to do that and how to get focused. One of the things that we've talked about in our classes a lot this past week is whenever the students bow onto the mat, they're supposed to, in essence, kind of empty the cup and get rid of all the concerns of the day. And so they have an open mind and they're fresh, and so they can learn. And I think at home, we have to try to do that same thing, to be in front of our screen or our camera and have that same discipline, same decorum, same focus so that we can get the most out of the experience. And then those of us that are working from home have to be able to find that place where we can sit down and do our work. Those of us that are going to school at home have to do the same thing. And it's been great to see everybody make that progress. So great job, everybody. It's great to see you all tonight. And I have to mention, we have a special guest with us tonight. So is my special guest out there somewhere? Special guest.
I see. Yep.
I know my special guest is out there. You know who you are.
You talking to me?
I am. Everybody, Mrs. Romanelli's made it to Zoom. Let's give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Hey.
Yes. So
Hello.
I asked Mrs. Robinelli to jump on. I know that so many of you have asked in our chats if Mrs. Robinelli not only exists, but if she's alive, she's well, and I'm happy to say
I am alive.
she's very well. But I know you guys wanted to see her. So not to put you on the spot, but any words of wisdom tonight, Mommy dearest?
Just enjoying the beautiful weather today. Actually barbecued. I was thinking about sitting outside during the chat, but decided that maybe I should come inside depending on the neighbor's dogs. So words of wisdom.
No,
Glad everybody's healthy, doing good. That's all.
No, that's great. That's great. Thank you for jumping on. It's great to see you. And I know that everybody's excited to have you with us. So thank you. Much appreciated. And, I have to mention that even though I know this is our first time that we've had a chance to see you on the chat, she's been working behind the scenes every day, doing a lot of things for you guys and for the school. And so I, on behalf of the staff, and all the students want to thank you for that. So thank you very much. We know that you've been kind of behind the scenes these last 6 weeks or so, but thanks, Mom. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. And thank you. It's a little different working from home, but with your patience, we're all getting through it.
I don't know about all that, but we're definitely getting through it. I don't know about the patience part, but we're all getting through it. So, tonight, what I wanted to do was go through a couple things. In our school, we're always trying to make updates, always trying to make things better for everybody. And so tonight's chat's going to be a little different. We're actually going to unveil some new processes and some new things just to be honest with you, we've already been doing. It's just now we're going to tell you what we've been doing and why we've been doing it. And I'm super excited about it. It was actually something that we had decided to originally debut when summer hit, after our black belt exams and everything had transpired, and when everybody was kind of going on the summer vacation mode a little bit. But life has shifted a little bit. Things have changed, and sometimes you have to go with the flow and pick up your pace on things. So Senpai and I have talked, and we thought that really getting some of these things going would be great. We know that moving from the virtual format back into the live format is not probably going to be a light switch. We know there's probably going to be things that we're asked to do, and whether it be different guidelines to follow, et cetera, et cetera. And so we know that it's going to be more of a dimmer switch. And some of the things that we have planned for the school, or that we've had planned for the school, are really going to work great with that in mind. And so tonight I wanted to go through a couple things with you, and we're not going to go through all the minute details, but just kind of give you a heads up on what we're thinking and what we're doing, so our heads are all in the same place. What I'm going to focus on for the next few minutes is really going to apply to for the immediate right now future, our karate group. And it's going to apply to our youth and adult karate contingent right now, meaning that they're already doing this in class. They just don't maybe realize it yet. But I'm happy to see so many of our black belts here tonight, because of course we have to set the example. So we have to know what to do and what's going on, so we can reinforce what's going on in the school for all the different levels. And it's great to see our leadership team here tonight too, so they can take a lot of this in and apply it accordingly. And a lot of the processes that we're going through tonight, even though we're focusing on that group, it is going to apply to our little dragons in the near future. It is going to apply to our Arnis students, to the Aikido students, to the Tai Chi students, and to the black belts as we finish this next set of exams. And it's also going to really help us as we develop a schedule that's going to be workable during these times when things are a little bit more unique. So what I want to talk about for a minute is as I mentioned, we Senpai and I and the staff, we've actually spent the last couple of years kind of putting some new things together that we're going to be debuting, and tonight's kind of the first time we're talking about it with the group. And we spent a lot of time networking, not just amongst ourselves and in our organization, but with other martial artists, other professional schools, other people that do what we do, so that we can, of course, offer the best possible experience for everybody involved. And that includes, of course, all the students, all of you guys that are here tonight, the parents, the families, the staff, etc. And so we're always trying to plus everything and make it better and improve things. And so we've spent a lot of time doing that. We continue to spend a lot of time doing that. And we've actually been running some tests, doing some different things. We've been actually, the Zoom opportunity has given us a lot of chances to test some teaching styles and some things that we were going to be shifting into. And actually even our BBC classes and things we've been doing, we've been testing a lot of things. You guys have been our test subjects. You just didn't realize it. So you guys all passed the test. Congratulations. But what I would say is, what we're talking about tonight isn't so much what we're teaching everybody, but kind of how we're delivering the information and kind of the order in which we deliver information, right? So what we've realized in our tests and in our experience over the years is that there's certain things that when a new student comes into the school, we have some of our brand new students on the chat tonight. When a new student comes into school, there's core things that you have to learn. And of course, there's core physical things you have to learn. There's core formalities and protocol that you have to learn, right? Coming into the environment. And so we know that that's really important. We know the first few months that a student is getting started in the martial arts are some of the most important so they can get off on the right foot. And so we've always worked really hard to make sure that we help those new students through that process. And so we know that's good. I would compare that maybe to like going to elementary or middle school, right? So when a student's a white belt, they're just getting started, they're in elementary school, they're in middle school, they're learning the basics. They're learning the things that they need to learn so they can learn the other things that they're going to be taught. And as we make this maybe educational comparison to what we do, eventually the student would move into high school, early college, graduate levels of college, etc. And it's interesting how that works, because when you see a student who's in elementary and middle school, things are a little bit more order specific and structure specific. In other words, you got to learn 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. As you get into high school, that's where, my son just brought home his schedule a few weeks ago, well, more than a few weeks ago now, I guess a few months ago, of what he's going to be doing next year as he goes into high school. And they have a lot more choice. You could take classes and you could take them in a different order as long as you get the job done, as long as you get your credits in, as long as you put the time in and you put it in appropriately and you study the right things. There is a little more flexibility in how you schedule that year and how you schedule those 4 years in high school. When we go to college, those of us that have done that, I'd say that even goes up another level, right? There's undergraduate courses and there's graduate courses, and you can't take graduate courses until you get your first degree. But there's a lot of options and there's a lot of ways you can structure it. And then, of course, you get to that graduate level. For us, maybe that's black belt, right? And now there's different graduate level courses you can take. But again, no one said you had to do A, then B, then C. You could do B, then C, then A, as long as you get it all done and all accomplished. So that's kind of the philosophy that we're taking as we approach the school. So we could take, we'll kind of use our karate group as an example tonight, but we could do this with a lot of the different classes in the school and arts in the school. And we've always kind of done this from an instructional standpoint. We could break everything down into really 4 key things, right? You have white belt, what everybody's learning at the very beginning. And then you've got the basic belt levels, those first 3 to 4 belt levels, essentially the first year to maybe 15 months or so that a student's in class. We'll call that for tonight, basic, right? That basic training. And when a student usually starts, they're on a basic program to start with for that reason. Then you get into those intermediate levels, the next 4, maybe those blues and purples. You're working towards those levels. And we will, for tonight's talk, we'll call that maybe intermediate, right? So it's that mid-level of learning. And then we have the high levels, the brown belt levels, getting into black belt. And we'll call that advanced. So you've got basic, intermediate, and advanced. And what we've done and what we've noticed is that if we take basic, the students are relatively at a similar level in their training. And so the things that are taught at that point can be taught in really any order, as long as they have the white belt basics first, so they can learn those things. And what we've also realized is that at intermediate level, sometimes we can learn 1, 2, 3, sometimes we can learn 3, 2, 1, but really, as long as we're working in that intermediate spectrum of material, the green black belt and the blue belt can learn a lot of the same things as the blue black and the purple belt. However, we really wouldn't want to introduce many things that are at that brown belt level. That's more reserved for them. But whether they're a low brown belt or a high brown belt, they tend to be able to handle the material pretty well. And so what we're talking about tonight is really operating on a little bit more of a rotational structure. So I prepared a screen share for you, and I'll show this to you and kind of explain what I mean by that. Just give me just a second. There we go. I think I got what I was looking for. Thumbs up if you can see that. All right. Thanks, Senpai, because you're at the top of my list there. All right. I appreciate the thumbs up. Because now that you guys can see that, I can't see you guys as well. So, and Senpai, I'm going to make you co-host just in case the world ends or something and I get kicked off for some reason. So that means you're in charge of this. All right. So, so what that is, everybody, is that is a diagram of what we're terming our basic level rotating curriculum. Now, this specific model is specifically, again, for the karate group, and this covers those that are white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, and green belt, and working towards their next level. So in other words, white belts working to yellow, yellow belts working to orange, and orange belts working to green, and green belts working to green black. Okay. And what you'll see is, if you look at and I know some of you are probably on bigger screens than others, but if you, and don't worry, this isn't the only time you're ever going to see this, but this is just for tonight's talk. But if you look at the center of that circle, it says white belt start here, 3 months to yellow. Typically, it takes about 3 months for a student to go from their first belt to their second belt. So that center of the circle, it symbolizes all those basic things I was talking about. It symbolizes elementary school. It symbolizes middle school, right? We're learning those basic things. There's certain things that are taught there that must be taught, and they must be taught in a specific order. And really that kind of embodies that first few months of training from when a student does their introductory lessons all the way to when they get to yellow. But you'll notice that the arrows that go out of that circle go in all different directions, right? Well, that's because the idea would be that the other 3 belt levels, those that are yellow belts, orange belts, and green belts, would be in class together and would be working on a structured level of curriculum. In other words, they're going to be working on one of those 3 segments that you see on the outside of the circle. So in other words, for 4 months, they're going to be working on A, which is a belt level's worth of information. So we called it belt A. That typically takes about 4 months to accomplish and get through and earn all the stripes, etc. And then they would go to B, and they would be working on that for about 4 months or so, and C, etc. So each of those ABC chunks there symbolize a belt level's worth of information. So, you know, the white belt gets to yellow belt, and then the yellow belt gets to join in class with the yellow belts, the orange belts, and the green belts. But they get to join in at whatever point they are in that little circle there. So they might be working on the material for belt A, the material for belt B, the material for belt C. The good news is it really doesn't matter what they're working on, because what we've realized, what we've learned is that long as they have the basics, they can learn A, B, and C, as long as we're operating in that basic level of curriculum. And so the thought process and the idea is now an entire class can essentially do the same thing and learn the same material, and then move to the next section of material, and then move to the next section of material. So the white belt student gets to yellow belt in about 3 months, jumps into class with the yellow belts through green belts, and is working on whatever the class is working on. And they're going to be there for approximately the next year, working through those 3 belt levels. But some students might work from C to B to A. Some might go from A to C to B, and some might go from B to A to C, and so on and so forth. Because what we know is the order really isn't important as long as we get all that stuff done, all those things accomplished in the time frames that we've put out there in front of us.
Are
And
we doing
so
karate?
the idea is to make sure that if you're listening in the background, that you're muted, guys, so that we're not interrupting the chat here. So the idea is that, excuse me for 1 second, is that this becomes a way that we can share information with an entire group where every single person in the class is working on something that they need at any given moment. And it allows us to produce an atmosphere with more cohesiveness where an entire group can be doing something, but the entire group needs it. The entire group needs to make progress with it, and the entire group can benefit from it. In other words, they need all these things for their next belt, their next stripe. And as we move through the system, it really works well because what it's going to do is, of course, develop a lot of camaraderie amongst the student body. A lot of our favorite classes to teach and to work with are those classes where we get to have the big group out there, one big group doing everything. And that doesn't mean that there's not other instructors and helpers and people out there, but we love it because of the energy and the focus, right? There's one focus point, there's one thing everybody's working on, and it just produces what I like to call magical experience, right? And so we love that. And so, Senpai and I have been talking in the staff, and we wanted to try to bring that into our classes more often. And even in our Zoom classes right now, we've been working through this and doing this because we love bringing those groups together more and more. Now, on the opposite side of things, what we also love about this opportunity is it actually allows us to be more flexible in being able to cater to the student body when there's a particular group of people that are new at something, or someone's having a challenge, or on the opposite side, somebody is working through something and is getting through it really quickly. It allows the instructors to have versatility where we can break up into teams and groups if need be and work at a student's level. So it really gives us a lot of flexibility, a lot of options. And from the scheduling perspective, what I really enjoy about this process is it actually opens up a lot of doors for us. And I'll get into that a little bit more later. But because we have a greater group working on similar things, it actually allows us to have, instead of as many different classes, more options of the same class. And so by doing that, it really gives a lot more flexibility for the student body. It's going to allow us to do some really great things where, yes, you're going to have your 2 classes each week that you should be at, but you might have 3 or 4 options of when those classes could be. So as life gets back to being busy, it's really going to give us a lot of versatility and create a more flexible schedule for the student body. So we're pretty excited about it, and we're really excited to get this moving for you guys. One of the things that we've been doing on Zoom ever since we did our progress updates with you guys a few weeks ago, we've pretty much gone purely to this teaching structure. And so I kind of made the announcement in several of the classes. I said, hey guys, just so you know, we're all working on new curriculum, new information, and it's going to be great. And these are the things that you're going to be evaluated and tested on in the future. And tonight is just my chance to really explain a little bit about what we meant by that. And really, it's as simple as that. You know, what do you have to know? Well, you have to know the things that we're working on. Now, of course, there's going to be, there are sheets and things that'll back this up and help you practice. But it's actually really, really simple. And it even makes our stripe testing and belt testing evaluations a little bit simpler too. It's very clear what we're going to be evaluated on, because it's exactly what we've been working on, and as a group, as a whole. And so this would be what a basic class would be working on. They'd be working on the first, in essence, 3 belt levels. Our white belts would have their curriculum they're working on, and our yellow belts, orange belts, and green belts would be working on things together. And depending on how long they've been in the class, they'll get a chance to go through A, B, and C training curriculum. So in other words, they're going to end up with all the same information by the time they get to their green black belt. They just might get in a little different order, just like when we go to high school, college, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd like to kind of go to the next one and show you the next thing. But Senpai, anything you want to throw in there? Maybe just give some left-hand perspective on what I said, because sometimes it all makes sense in my mind, but you have a different way of explaining things sometimes. So anything you'd add to that so far?
Sure, Sensei. Just real quick, Sensei, are you planning on showing him a requirement list at all?
I do have a sample. I do have one sample of that tonight, actually the one that I sent you the other day, and I was going to use that as kind of a bullet point for everybody once we go through some of this. So.
Sure, thanks. Well, what you'll see in a minute, Sensei, I believe that's what he's going to show you, is in order to get to orange belt, once you're yellow belt, basically you're looking at 1/3 of the curriculum, right? And then the orange belt to get to green belt has to know 2/3 of that curriculum. And then the green belt to get to green black belt has to know all 3/3 of that curriculum, the A, B, and the C chunk. So that's just one more way to kind of look at it, right? So you got the A, the B, and the C rotations of different curriculums, and Sensei will show you in a moment kind of how that works, right? So that's another way to look at it. So the white belt pops out and they earn that yellow belt. Now they're in the group class with, you know, orange and green belts working towards that green black belt, kind of the graduate of the basic level class. And then you have to know 1/3 or 2/3 or all 3/3 of the curriculum in order to advance to that highest level in the basic class. Okay, so another way to look at it. Sensei?
Oh, thank you, Senpai. That was a great addition to that. And again, the thing that we love most about that in that process is it really, from an instructional standpoint, allows us to be more thorough, to take students to a higher level with the information, and really to take them where they need to go with it. And of course, progress people and move people through the system as needed, and really help those that might need extra help and extra work as we go through it. So it's really, we're pretty excited. It's going to make everything we do not only more efficient, but also more thorough. So the students are going to get a more quality experience overall, and more options to get that experience. Now I'll go to the next one here. I have to kind of stop sharing and then reshare. So give me a second here. And let's see, how do we do that? All right. Sorry, guys. So just kind of moving through, we'll show you another one. There it is. All right. So this would be the intermediate level rotation. So you kind of see in the background of that, the goal belts, you know, the belts that are the goals of this rotation, which would be our blue belt, our blue black belt, our purple black. So in other words, this is when you get to green black belt, and you're going to be in this rotation until we make it all the way through to purple black belt. And essentially what you've got there, you've got 4 chunks, A, B, C, D, and this operates on a 4-month cycle. There's 4 belt levels. there was no more white belt because we've already gotten that. So kind of the prerequisite for this, to get into this chunk of information, you have to have all the basic things accomplished. So Senpai was talking about breaking that basic one up into thirds. Well, at this point, you've got all the thirds. You've been tested on those things in many different ways. You've made it to green black belt, and now you're here and you're working through the intermediate levels. And so this would allow us to create an intermediate class with, again, a lot of different options for scheduling, where students in this class could work together as a team and learn comparable things. And so, what we've done as instructors is we've done a lot of testing with you guys, where we've taught the the green black belt, the purple belt material. Say, okay, can you handle it? Can you do it? And we're so happy to see that that's very possible. In fact, in some ways, it's even been easier because they're excited about it. Because we're doing something new and different. So that's been really rewarding to see. And we've been testing those things for the last couple of years in a lot of different ways. But before I go, I'm going to kind of work through this. I'm not going to dwell on it. But Senpai, anything you'd add to just the intermediate level there, and any bullet points there that we didn't already cover? I think it's pretty much the same thing, just another group of bells, right?
Sure. Well, in my experience teaching over the years, there's certain milestones that are kind of in your journey to black belt, and I feel the breakpoints that we have here are very much in line with those milestones. So that green black belt that we just kind of passed up is that student is now a really solid basic student that can handle that intermediate level curriculum. So that's this is like the middle school that we're looking at right now, and then we have certain maturity goals and spirit and intensity level goals, skill, of course, and really a sharper eye for detail. And that's kind of the intermediate level. And then we'll get to the more advanced, and then obviously the black belt. I kind of call that the elite of the school is the black belt in the dojo. And there's different goals and milestones for them as well. So that's why there's those certain breakpoints. So now you got 4 quarters to work into, right? So that blue belt is working one of those 4 quarters. Then blue black belt's got 2 of them. Now they have half the curriculum, and then purple belt 3, and then purple black belt is that final quarter of the circle there, and then they're ready for the advanced, the tougher stuff.
Yeah, well said. So absolutely. And so these are the things that we think at an intermediate level that the student body is going to be able to work through and handle at that point. And just to backtrack for a minute, that first year or so, getting to in the karate class, that green black belt, but really anybody's first year in the martial arts is really that time where they make the choice on whether they're going to commit to training to black belt and beyond, right? And generally in most of our studies, black belt's a 4 to 6 year process, right? And so that first year is really all about deciding on whether this black belt is something we're going to pursue and do. So from an instructional standpoint, we have certain goals for the student in their first year, because not everybody's going to do that. And so we want to make sure that if they do the first year of martial arts training, there's a lot of things that we won't teach them, because we know that it really only matters if you're going to be here for the long haul to learn those things. But we do teach them the things that we feel are really vital and really important. And that if they were to walk away after that first year, they'd have some very good basic self-defense, physical skills, and developmental qualities that they could take with them in whatever they pursue. And so we spend a lot of time, of course, we've done it with a lot of you, working through that goal setting process of working the black belt. So now this curriculum, this intermediate level, is really where those things come into fruition. And so now, again, we've hit that break point where we've gotten through that first year, and now we've made some decisions where, hey, this black belt is something we want to do. And so we layer things in at an intermediate level that we don't entertain at a basic level, other than maybe just some sampling here or there. Now, to continue through, we'll go to the next one here. Although some of you are probably following what we're doing here. You might know what it's going to look like, but we'll show it to you anyway. Let's see here. There we go. So this one is the advanced level rotating curriculum. And actually, this one looks almost more like the first one because there's 3 belt levels and there's 3 pieces of the pie, so to speak, an ABC piece. And this is designed to get someone to brown belt and then get them through brown belt and get them to black belt, right? Reaching their black belt. So this isn't black belt training curriculum, that comes after that, but these are the things that we need to get to black belt. So this one, we actually start from the outside and work our way into the center from a visual standpoint. The student would get to their purple black belt and then start training for brown belt. And so they would be jumping in the class at that point, whenever that is, could be C, B, or A. Typically at these advanced levels, we see it take about 5 months for the average student to get from brown belt to their next brown belt to their next brown belt. And then from brown belt to black belt, in most cases, is a 6-month to year process, depending on the art, the system, and the testing cycles involved. So this is set up to support all that. So you'll see that belts A, B, and C, if it's large enough for you to see it, are 5-month rotations for that reason. Of course, the material is more complex at those levels, and the time is really important, not just to learn the skills, but to better those skills and become a more proficient student. Now, once they make it all the way around A, B, and C, then they go to the center. And you'll see that we've labeled that as a new start or a new beginning. And that's where the student would enter black belt preparation. So we kept that circle white. And I made it black, but then I realized that really, black belt preparation is really like being a white belt again. There's that time where we have to empty the cup, right? And review these things and get them up to black belt level. So I guess you could say it's a visual reminder that, hey, we're all really white belts at heart. We're all learning, we're all improving, we're all getting better. But this would be the advanced level rotating curriculum. This is specifically for students that are purple black belt through first Q brown belt that are, essentially black belts in waiting or black belts in training. Okay. Senpai, what do you think? Anything that you want to jump in on that one before we go to the sample, kind of the sample paperwork that I brought with me tonight?
Well, Sensei, I think it makes sense seeing all 3 pie charts there, everybody, right? I know we'll probably get some questions later on, but kind of the same idea, just more advanced material. And then the big fun part is the black belt preparation cycle that I know many of you have been through, and some of you will be going in the future. So I think they're ready, Sensei, for the next piece.
Excellent, excellent. So just to recap for a quick second, I would encourage you to, please go ahead and mute yourself, guys, if you haven't, just so we can continue to chat here. One of the things that I would encourage you to just to take a step back for a minute. So, we talked about elementary, middle school, high school. So, we've gone through white belt at an elementary level. We've learned the basics, and then we've gotten to the intermediate level and the advanced level of learning, and so on and so forth. And of course the basic is in there too. So you get the basic, the intermediate, the advanced. We've kind of worked our way through the different blocks, and we know that in each of those sections that the students can handle any of the material that we put there at those levels, specifically and appropriately. And then of course they can't move on to the next piece of the pie, or the next pie, so to speak, until they you got to finish your apple pie before you get to go to the cherry pie. So that's kind of the way that it works. And then we move forward. Now, the great thing about this is really what we're doing now is, instead of pushing students through belts, where we're pushing curriculum through the student body appropriately. And that really opens up a lot of doors for us and gives us a lot of chances to do what we do a lot better. And so really, when it comes to stripe testing and belt testing procedures, and even for the black belts down the road, progress check procedures, the procedure is the same. We're still going to do our stripe testing and belt testing once a month, and everything's the same. It's just we're going to ask you for the things that we've been working on most currently. And to give you an example of that, I will show you another screen. So this is just one of, wait for it, there it is. So this, guys, is a basic level requirement sheet. And of course, the cool thing about this is, Senpai talked me into this, so good job, Senpai, is that you really only need one sheet to get from yellow belt to orange belt to green black belt. Because we were able to condense all this and make it available to you. So in this capacity, in this way, and just to explain a little bit, there would still be, I know we have some brand new white belts on with us, so there's still a yellow belt requirement sheet, and that one's separate because they have their own curriculum. They have that center of the circle. So that center of the circle is on its own sheet, and all of you guys should already have one of those. But this is what we would be as just a sample, it's kind of in the beta state, I guess you could say, before we distribute it this week. But this is an example of what the basic students would be working through. And what you'll see is on the front side of that sheet there is stripe 1, and it's the basics, the etiquette, and the life skills that we're working in to our curriculum at that level. And so you'll see kind of in the background there that A, B, C. Well, those are just the blocks of information. So stripe 1 is for basics, like it's been forever, but we might be working on block A, block B, and block C. What I can tell you right now in our classes is everybody that's an orange belt, and green black belt has been working on block C. We started there so that everybody in class would be working on something new. Even those that are green belt going for green black belt are still working on those things that they needed before to get to green black belt. So in essence, we'll be working on that C curriculum right now for April. It's now May, but April, May, June, July, for those 4 months. And so really as a student, all you have to focus on, if you look at that sheet, is everything that's in block C. Those are the things you need for your first stripe. And then below that, there's some of the etiquette and some of the character building that we're going to request at those different levels, but that's just for everybody to do. And some of the things are labeled specifically. One of the things that we wanted to make very involved in this, and as we do stripe testing, as we roll out, were a lot of the things that we know that martial arts brings to the table, but to bring it a little more to the forefront. So we wanted to make sure there's some components in there where we ask the students questions about different virtues and different character building things that they're working through, whether it be being respectful, being confident, being focused, and the list goes on. Being humble, being responsible, being able to persevere. And so, for example, if you're able to read it on your screen, the bottom says character building and life skills. You have to be able to explain what the words below mean at the various belt levels. So at orange belt, you have to explain focus and concentration. At green belt, you have to be able to explain confidence and what that means. And at the green black belt level, going for that, you have to be able to explain gratitude. But this is the first stripe. And then as you go through the belt levels, you'd get a chance to work through another piece, another block of information, the B block. And as you go through, you're gonna work on the A block. So let's say there's a yellow belt in class right now. They're working on block C. Approximately 4 months from now, they're going to go to orange belt, and by that point, we'll have been working into block B. And then, fast forward 4 months from then, we'll have rotated to block A, and they'll be at their next belt level as well. And it actually works pretty seamlessly. Senpai, I'm going to go to the back side of this, but just did I explain that okay? Anything that you want to jump in with there?
Well, Sensei, I think you hit all the major points there. I think, we'll go to questions in a little while, I'm sure, but is all this kind of making sense to everybody? Thumbs up, maybe, for the most part, kind of clicking to you. All right, cool. Looking like we're seeing some thumbs.
All right.
The exciting part is really that character development that we're adding into the curriculum. It's always been there, but never specifically in the paperwork. So that's really nice to see that laid out and really detailed a little more as everyone moves forward.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll mention, just because we're always talking about goals, if you look at the top of that sheet, there's 3 belt levels at the top. Those are the goals for the basic level. Orange belt, green belt, green black belt. And then below each of those, it even mentions how many blocks are required. So Senpai mentioned this in thirds earlier, but it says, 10th Q orange belt, and then it says 1 block required. 9th Q green belt, 2 blocks required. 8th Q green black belt, 3 blocks required. So by the time you get to green black belt, well, you got to know all that stuff. And you, by the way, you will have done all those things because you've been there for it the whole time. Let's go to the back. We still have the goals at the top, okay? You're going to see, and again, we don't need to go through all the specific requirements listed there, but essentially what that is, stripe 2 is sparring. And so there's 1 belt's worth of sparring curriculum in block A, 1 belt's worth of sparring curriculum, or 1 stripe's worth, if you want to look at it that way, in belt B, and another stripe's worth of curriculum in block C there. Stripe 3 is for self-defense. So what you'll notice is we did change the order of the stripes, and we thought this would really be helpful for everybody. Specifically, we put kata at stripe 4. Typically, that is one of the longer things to learn, and given the idea of rotating through these subjects, we thought that would actually make the process a lot better for the student and give them more time to work through that. And so stripe 2 is the sparring stripe. Stripe 3 is the self-defense stripe. And actually, my friend Sensei Davis, I think, explained it really, really well. He said, you go from learning basic movements to sparring, where you're putting those movements together into combinations, really. And then you go from that to self-defense, where you're using more of those combinations with partners in different ways, or using some of those single techniques in different ways with partners. And then you go to stripe 4, which is an extended combination, an extended presentation of those techniques, and really an overview, a presentation of everything that you've learned when you go through the form at that belt level. And so our goal was to give the students the time to perfect that and make that better. I think it's really going to be great for everybody. So the self, if you go to stripe 3, you'll see 1 block's worth of self-defense in block A, 1 block's worth in B, 1 block's worth in C, and that's one belt worth, 1 stripe worth at those various levels. And then stripe 4 is we go back to a little bit of life skill as well as the kata. And so at the basic level, there's 1 kata per level. There's some bullet points there of the things that they have to work on at those levels, but it's just a matter of us putting the time in to get through the 3 belt levels and to get through the 3 kata, just like we've always done. Just maybe a little different order than what everybody's used to. And then character building is being able to answer more impromptu questions about the words that we're focusing on at the various belt levels. And once a student gets their 4th stripe, they'd be eligible for a belt exam, just like we've always done. So really, this is just maybe a different layer on what we've already been working through for as long as most of us can remember anyway. Senpai, does that, what do you think? Anything to add to that as we look at the other side there?
Well, in a more smaller example, some of you in class may have maybe experienced this already. You might be learning Pinan Shodan currently right now, and then may not already know Taikyoku Sandan or Taikyoku Nidan, but it doesn't really matter the order that you learn them in, right? That's kind of the goal of tonight's class, per se, with those 3 katas. They're very similar in ability. It's just learning them properly, right? So the advantage to that is everyone can be on the floor in the class doing the same thing at the same time. And if there are students that are struggling or having a harder time, then those students can be helped even more by a free instructor, and it allows to split the class up, but everyone's doing the same thing at the same time. So it's a better, simpler environment for the student, for the instructor, and for those students that excel, and for those students that might be struggling with a piece or something, they can be easier to work with at that moment. So just to give you a example, just to relate to kata, but that could be any of the 4 stripes of materials. And if you're not in karate, that would relate to all the other arts as well, arnis, tai chi, aikido, all those other things too, it would apply. That's
Yeah.
it.
Well well said. Sometimes looking at it on a micro level can be really helpful too. So I will stop the share for a minute here, and I know that, as we go through this, I'm sure a lot of you will have questions about different pieces, and I'm sure you guys probably have different things going through your minds right now. Honestly, what I would encourage you to do is kind of take it all in and kind of let it happen, because as it happens, it's all going to, I think, really make more sense. But the goal of tonight's chat was to at least let you know what we're working on. Now, what I can tell you right now is that anybody, and by the way, we did the Zoom schedule. Those of you that maybe are looking at that now, we specifically structured the Zoom schedule to work with this format in mind, because we knew we were heading this way, and it just gave us another opportunity to roll this out properly. And so right now our classes are organized exactly this way. So we have a class that's white belts, yellow belts, orange belts, and green belts. We have a class that's green, black, blue, purple, a class that's purple, black, and brown. And so we've been already doing this with you guys in those classes anyway. And everybody is working on the highest, well, I shouldn't say the highest, but the highest letter block anyway in the structure. So in other words, everybody in the basic class, we've been focusing on the C block of information, the C block of basics, the C block of kata, the C block of sparring, the C block of self-defense. In the intermediate group, we've been working on the D block, because that's the newest material for everybody in those classes. And then in the advanced group, we've been working on that C block, which again is the newest material for everyone in those classes. And then we'll be rotating back through from C to B to A. So, but to switch gears a little bit, as we kind of are starting to get short on time tonight, what I wanted to just talk a little, because a lot of people have asked questions. When is the dojo going to be open? When is that going to transpire? When are we going to get back to class, et cetera? And I've been asked a lot of those things, and not just that, but when that does happen, or when that's allowed to happen, how are we going to do that? What's the process going to be? And even though we're still waiting to get official okays on a lot of things, one of the kind of the blanket things I want to put out there today is, again, it kind of goes back to the little analogy I made about the dimmer switch earlier. More than likely, what we have seen so far with other businesses that have been allowed to start operating again in their normal, well, in a capacity, and what we've seen in different parts of the world, and in different states even, because some of them are different from each other as far as where they're at in this process. We know it's probably going to be a dimmer switch. We know that even though we might be having classes at our school again, we know there might be limitations to those classes as far as the proximity people can get to each other. We also know there might be some specifics as far as how many students we could have in a class at any given time. And we also know that we want everybody to be really super safe and really super comfortable while doing any of those things at our school, and feel that way too. And so, of course, we're going to be taking a lot of precautions on our own, and I'm sure there's going to be a nice list of things that will be provided for us that we should adhere to. But we've already been prepping for all that behind the scenes, and I'm really proud of the progress we've made so far with that. What I can say is we're probably going to be in a situation where, yes, we'll start turning that dimmer switch, but we're probably going to be doing a combination of virtual and live classes, so that we can have a schedule that's workable for everybody, where everybody would have the chance to come into the school, but also be able to get enough classes in on a week like we should. And so what I would imagine we're going to see is a step-by-step process back into what maybe we would all call normal, right? And so just keep that in mind. I know some of you are in the boat of extreme caution with how you deal with the situation, and you've reached out to me and said, well, hey, Sensei, just because the dojo's open, are there going to be some other options if we need some time? And my answer to that is yes. And I've also had people that have asked me, well, when we are allowed to come back, can we? And well, the answer to that is yes, but I'm sure there's going to be some specifics involved there. And so what we want to do as a school is not cater to our personal thought process on things, but cater to the student body, cater to what's going to be safest for everybody, and exert really good leadership here. We feel that's really, really important. And so I hope by this point that we have everybody's best interests at heart. We want to make sure that everybody's able to accomplish their goals. And we're going to provide whatever facets we need to make that possible and to make that happen. And so with that said, I hope that kind of gives you at least a few bullet points to think about. We have, of course, some safety things we're going to be considering, and a lot of procedural things that we'll be doing to make sure that when the school opens, that it's a really safe atmosphere for everybody, and that everybody's really comfortable, and to make sure that training can continue for everybody, regardless of where you may fall in the spectrum of comfortability, if that's a word. And Senpai, I'll turn it back to you for a second. I'm gonna finish up here in a minute, and unless there's any big questions as we finish. But anything you'd add to that? I want to give everybody kind of an overview of what we've been thinking and what we've been working on. Of course, the details are still being worked on because we haven't been provided with all that information either. But we're doing a lot behind the scenes to make sure that when those things happen, that we're ready. So, Senpai, anything you'd add to that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody, and I know this goes from Sensei as well, just for staying involved and being a part of what we're doing and hanging in there. Now everybody's life has changed because of the circumstances. So it's really awesome to see everybody staying connected and working together to achieve goals and support each other. And I know a lot of our families are either in the healthcare community or related to it somehow. So thank you for doing such a great job out there. Let's really rally around them and show support. That's fantastic. And as martial artists, we have to adapt and figure things out as we need to, right? And we've all been doing that at home. And I know not just staying active physically, but just mental health is important right now. So something I'm going to share in a video this week is just kind of ways to freshen up your mental health too. Something that we did over this weekend was just kind of put the house back together the way it used to be before all this stuff happened. And just because, I've been teaching out of my living room and got stuff everywhere and rearranged. And when you put it back to kind of how it used to be, man, did that feel good just to have a little bit of memory of what that felt like, right? So I encourage you all just, look around your house, and things have been changed because they've had to. Raise your hand if you're working from home. Any of you working from home? Yeah. I tripped on my couch last night teaching class and fell on the couch. Anybody see that? I'm sure you guys enjoyed that.
I definitely saw that, Senpai.
That was great. A new hazard I've never experienced.
That was great.
Sensei.
That was great.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that,
So,
Senpai. I just want to put that out there. I almost enjoyed it as much as hearing about Hancho's birthday for the last 6 months.
That's right. So, I'm sure we're all having to share that type of stress, with what we're having to adapt on the fly and change things. So I'm sure many of us can relate. So just, taking a breath and finding ways to refresh not only what you're doing physically in the arts, but also just remember the mind is the most powerful thing we have. So that's my last word for tonight. So thank you for all for joining us.
Thank you, Senpai. We do, it is 8 o'clock, and my goal was to not keep you guys past that time. And because I know tonight was a little bit more of a lecture and less of an interactive chat, so we could present some of these things. Didn't want to put you guys to sleep too early on a Sunday night. But I hope it was informative. I hope it was helpful. What we will be doing over the course of the next week is we'll make a lot of the different updates, so like the requirement sheets and things available electronically for you guys. So you could have access to those things. And I want to take a minute to thank those that have joined us that are not necessarily involved in this particular rotational structure, because these are things we're going to be rolling out in our school in different ways as we move through the next few months. This is just where we're starting. And so just understanding the process is really good, even if the techniques don't apply to you. So, Senpai?
First of all, Austin Gagne, really good to see you. Last time I saw you, you didn't have a mustache.
Yeah.
It's good to
How
see
you
you
doing?
guys too.
Yeah.
Not too
great to
bad.
see- I'll be honest, Senpai. I saw Austin, and I'm like, I think that's Austin Gagne, but the mustache was throwing me off. Like I didn't want to put it out there. So I'm glad you were the one that stepped on that. So.
And real quick, if any of you are free this week on Thursday night after classes, after the Zoom classes, we're going to do a teen and adult get together, chat, just have fun on Zoom here. So if you're free that Thursday night coming up this week, I'd love to have you. So get your acting skills ready.
Oh, on that note, great to see you guys today. I want to thank everybody for being a part of tonight's chat. What we do plan to do, just so you guys know, is we will have next chat on Sunday will be 2 weeks from tonight. I was supposed to have that date in front of me, but I don't. But whatever 2 weeks from tonight is, that'll be our next Sunday with Sensei chat. What I would hope is probably by that point, we're going to have some definite information on what some of our next steps are going to be, one way or the other, as we work through this time as a school. So I would imagine, in a few weeks, we'll be able to give you some more updates on what we anticipate, what we expect, and probably get a little more specific into some of the things I brought up as far as that goes tonight. So I'm going to, officially dismiss the chat here in just a moment. I know some of you might have some questions about what I talked about tonight. If it's something on the smaller side, I would encourage you just to take it as it comes. But if you have something you'd like me to tackle, I'm happy to do that. I have about 10 minutes or so before I sign off. But I guess what I'm saying is class is officially dismissed. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to hang around. It was really great seeing everybody tonight, as I see many of you scatter. So obviously you guys got it. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'll stick around for a few minutes. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand using the chat option there, just so we don't unmute and attack Sensei. So thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night, guys.
Okay, I see Austin, you got your hand up. Go for it. Austin put his hand
Sorry
down.
about that. Trying to figure out how to unmute.
How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing fine. Doing good. Jersey's a little weird.
Wait, well, congratulations! I heard you got engaged, and I've been wanting to connect with you on the phone and talk to you about that. But congratulations!
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
I didn't know that.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Austin, are you still engaged?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before I started congratulating you. Anyway, I'm sorry. You had a question. Go ahead. Great to see you, though. Great to see you.
Yeah, no problem. So how does the new structure work around students who would get some sort of illness or get injured for extended periods of time? Because I remember back when I was level 1 or 2, I was out for 2 to 4 months. So it
Sure.
seems like on this schedule, I would miss an entire block.
Yeah, what we see, Austin, and that's a really good question. Is depending on obviously those things are all situational, right? But the really nice part about this structure from an instructional standpoint, from a staff standpoint, is right now you walk into a class and instructor A is teaching this group, instructor B is teaching this group and this group. And the reason why it's happening is because we all have different things to teach. The nice thing about teaching in a more unified structure is now when somebody has a situation that pops up like that, it allows us to deal with that on a little bit more of a personal level, where we could work to get that student back up to speed on things. Now, if we're talking about a student being out for 4 months for whatever reason, well, as you can see, a lot of the blocks are organized that way. And so, obviously they're gonna get a chance to rotate back to that information at some point, even though they might learn it in a little different order than maybe they had been laid out to learn it and do it. So that's kind of the perk of the whole thing. On the opposite end of the spectrum, from planning this and laying this out, we also structured it in such a way where we're actually anticipating the students being able to get through our time estimates are below average, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so what that means is that we anticipate the students having an easier time getting through all this as well. And so it gives us that little bit of wiggle room that we need to help people work through things as they might confront some of those challenges. So, and those are the things, and that's going to be a big part of the learning process for us as we go through it. But we're pretty confident. So I hope that helps. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, it does for sure.
Cool.
I'm just interested to see how it plays out in the future. Don't want to say the near future because I don't hope that happens to anyone where they end up missing a whole block.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, that's the great thing about it being rotational, right? Is that what goes around comes around, essentially, right? So that's the good news about it. We didn't talk about black belts tonight, but from a black belt perspective, the great thing about being a black belt is, you're not testing for a new belt tomorrow. You have even more time, to go from belt to belt. So it definitely, well, it's even easier at those levels and at those stages as far as how that would work. So, but no, that's a real good question. Those are definitely things we had to consider. And, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people that, of course, we had to modify this structure to fit our school, what we teach, what we do. But I've had a chance to talk to a lot of other school owners and instructors and so on and so forth, and how they confront some of those challenges. And they've got a lot of really good thoughts and good ideas on how to do some of that. So it's been really helpful. So, but thank you, Austin. I appreciate it. Great talking to you. Great to see you. And, by the way, the great thing about Zoom is you can jump in class.
Yeah, I've been experiencing some computer issues because I switched my operating system to Linux. So I've had to actually reinstall Linux like every week or so, and I have to refix everything on my computer. So it's just been a hassle trying to deal with that.
Okay. Well, if it's one thing I understand is technical difficulties, Austin. So, but I hope you could jump in with us. I mean, that's an awesome opportunity for you being in Jersey. You could actually go to class. I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's one of the great things that we've learned during this time. It's been awesome. So I'd love
Seems
to
to be working pretty good right now.
That was coming.
Yeah, I found out about these classes like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm glad I could finally join one.
Yeah.
Monday, Thursday night, 7:45.
That's cool that it's earlier than a normal class.
Look at that. We planned it just for you, man. Just for you. Well, great talking to you, Austin, and I hope we have more chances to do that. Any other questions there, guys? I do see some of you hanging out. Maybe you're just hanging out to say happy Sunday to me. I appreciate that. But any other questions?
I've been watching Mary play with the dogs for a while.
Mhm.
Hi, Mary.
I see James put his hand physically up. So James, you want to chime in there for a second?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand for the chat stuff.
That's okay. I can't raise my hand either, so I don't blame you.
I couldn't figure it out. But anyways, I was just wondering, like, how would it work for, like, when we go back, like, if you're at a certain point and you go to the next step, if you move up into the other class, how does that work if you're, like, then you jump in and you're working on B block when you need, like, because if you, like you're saying, you need blocks A, B, C, but if you move up to the next one, what if, like, you're working on B block, but to get to the next belt, you need that A block first?
Well, I see your hand. You want to field that question?
Yeah, James, basically what we've done is we've started with the most advanced block of the curriculum. So
Okay.
So that way, even if you're at the highest end, everyone's learning that most advanced piece. So for example, the basic group has been learning Pinan and Shodan, no matter who they are, and it's new for everybody. And then they'll move up into the next chunk of material, when they get their belt, and then it's kind of grandfathered in. So it takes care of itself right away, and really no one knows the difference until they get the new belt, and then they're learning new stuff anyway. Does that help?
Yeah, because I just want to explain it to Noah since he hasn't been able to do it. And I know they're going to ask me that question. So,
Yeah. So
just wanted to be able to
he's got
relay
nothing
that
to worry
to them.
about. He's just got to know whatever we're teaching him. That's
All right.
everyone's going to move forward as they need to, and that's kind of how we phased it in without really causing any big hiccups.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
The only thing I would add, and this is something I should have mentioned to everybody, but just you dozen or two that are here get to hear it. Whenever we, just to give you some bullet points, over the years we've made, of course, updates and changes to things. Some of you have been around long enough, you might remember when green belt was before brown belt. Okay, the belt colors even used to be different. We there used to be a red sash before brown sash and Tai Chi. Things modify, things change. Whenever we have an update or an update, we always give a certain amount of time for transitioning, right? And so we know as instructors that sure, there's going to be some transition moments for people that if they're smack dab in the middle of a belt, that they're going to, when we evaluate them for stripes and belts and things, we're going to have to look into that and take those things into consideration. And that's fine. And that's worked for years and years and years for anything else that we've had to update or modify. And honestly, in a lot of ways, this one's way easier than a lot of other things we've done over the years. You guys might remember we used to do those of you karate students used to do the hand katas instead of the pinan katas. Well, you guys all learned the pinan katas. You got through them. And I bet not one of you could do hand Godon right now. And so yeah, maybe Senpai could. Maybe Senpai. Austin's thinking about it. Yeah, I want to see it, Austin. But, we've made those changes. We've made those modifications. I can go down the list, and we're all still here, and it all works out, right? So that's the long story short. But that's a good question, James. Noah's actually in a great spot because he's a brown belt. So, I mean, really, he's kind of getting to the end of that anyway. And so, he'll be focused more on that and how it works at the black belt level, which is a perfect time to start something new anyway. So he's sitting pretty right now as far as that goes. But obviously, feel free to explain it to him.
Okay. Yeah. Sweet. Thanks. That helped a lot because I know. What's that?
I said, no, it's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you too.
You look like you're working at a radio station.
Oh, yeah. I got my camera working on my main computer, so now I'm able to use my PC, my gaming stuff. So it's a lot better than my regular laptop.
Yeah, that's all right. I just enjoy it. You look important. So you are.
You.
So that's good. But any other questions? All right. Well, Senpai, either I just blew their minds or I did a good job. Either way, that's not bad, I guess.
See what Don Orr's eating. What are you eating, Don? Can't hear you yet.
I didn't.
There you go.
Cheesecake.
Ah, very good.
That was very good.
The Agars have raised their hands. So Rex, you have a question for me?
Yeah. Me and Jackie were just trying to figure out, you're still going to have it those separated by age, or are you going to put the ages together also coming up?
Oh, you mean as far as live classes?
Well, the live classes, or even when you get into class with this curriculum, are you going to have it broke up in ages still? Because you still have the youth and the adults, but like right now I'm training with Rexy.
Sure.
In this new, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. I didn't know if that's going to follow through also in the future, or, I just was curious.
So that's a really good question, actually. And just to backtrack for a minute, the interesting thing, well, your case is a little bit different because, of course, you have a son that's actually in class with you, right? But for most people, they're training at home and they're training on their own. And so for us as instructors, we're teaching the same things to the different groups. It's just I guess the difference between Zoom and the live school is they're total opposite in the capacity, right? In other words, on Zoom, we don't have to worry about somebody running into the walls, and in the dojo we do. And when we return to live classes, we're probably going to have some even more strict capacity things that we have, not capacity, but distancing things that we have to be, concerned with, right? So to answer your question plainly and simply is we're still going to have adult classes. We're still going to have youth classes. What you're going to see is you'll see there'd be essentially 4 youth, I won't say 4 youth classes, but 4 youth divisions of classes. You'd have basic, intermediate, advanced, and black belt. And we might have different names, they'll have different names like they do now, cranes, snakes, tigers, leopards, what have you. And then in the adult spectrum, it's going to be the same thing, which honestly is the way the adult classes are pretty much separated now. It's just now you've got some different paperwork to go along with it. So you've got 100, 200, 300, and then based on your black belt level, 400 or 500. And those classes, actually the adult classes right now are exactly separated that way. The 100 class is there to cater to white through green belts. The 200 class caters from green, black to purple. And as you know, you get to purple black belt, sometimes purple if we're feeling excited, but we put you in the 300 class. And so what's going to happen is by doing this is we actually open up some slots where the student body is going to have a couple of different options. So from a traffic flow perspective and from a class count perspective, it's going to let things level out a little bit and actually, I think, be a lot better for everybody, plus give them some flexibility too. And so, again, from an instructional standpoint, I think from a student standpoint and a parent standpoint, that's going to be really cool. But yeah, there's still going to be youth and adult classes, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great question, though. Great question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you,
no
Sensei.
problem, Rex. I hope that it helps.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else before we sign off tonight, guys? Going once? Going twice?
It was Hancho's birthday?
Not anymore. Hancho's birthday's over.
I sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. And by the way, Mike Ambrosio, 10 bonus points for, I did get to see your comments about that in the video. So I didn't get a chance to see all the videos.
So good.
There were a few comments that
We had a great chat.
more Honcho's videos, but I love that. That was great. Thank you for that. But back to the task at hand. Any last questions tonight, guys, before we finish up?
I still can't figure out how to raise my hand, Sensei, but I got one more question.
Sure.
You've got to go into the participants list
At the bottom.
and at the bottom, and then you'll see a button to raise your hand.
Oh.
I believe. That's what I've been
Yeah.
told.
And your reactions are in there and stuff
Oh,
too.
I found it. Awesome.
There you go.
Now I know. Thank you.
Don
Well,
Locke, cake to the wind.
But so I know you were talking about when we come back to school, possibly like coming back to the school, possibly like doing some Zoom and then some live classes. So I was wondering, like, would that carry on for a certain amount of time? Because if I go back to school in the fall, if it's on Zoom, I would still be able to attend classes. And I was wondering, would that be something that could be carried on for longer, or would that just be until this limit capacity can be completely taken down and whatever capacities are allowed?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and Senpai looks like he wants to field that question. So,
Well, James, time's going to tell, really what that means. We're going to probably more than likely be operating with both for a little while. We don't know how long, but we do know that if we want to get back to as it was before, eventually, we're going to need all hands on deck eventually, right? So you need an instructor to either run a separate Zoom class or find a way to integrate Zoom into the school itself. So that's something we've tossed around so far. We will see what that really means as the future moves. So we really don't know yet, but we'll see. Hopefully you have school to go back to as far as when you have to start your next semester too, right? So that, the world doesn't really know all those answers yet, but we're going to do the best we can, obviously, and to integrate and make it happen.
Awesome. Thank you.
You know, the only thing that I would say is maybe a blanket statement is one of the things that's really been great about this opportunity for us is we have realized a lot of different ways that we could get the job done and a lot of different ways that we can make progress. I'm really excited to see our black belt candidates take their black belt test, as literally 90% of their black belt prep will have been over a virtual format. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see that accomplishment. And it's been great seeing the progress. And so, you know, a lot of these tools we've used have definitely opened some doors in some ways that we communicate with people in ways that we hadn't thought of or expected. And seeing some of you guys that were away at school, and some of you popped in before you were back home. And it was great. I didn't even think of that. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh, wow, that's awesome. And so, yeah, those have definitely been some conversations. So that is a great point. But I see Lewis Warner, you have your hand raised. Go for it, Lewis.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead. How are you?
Well, how are you? I'm well, and you, sir?
Good, good. How's the bathroom coming? I know you've been working hard.
It's we put the first coat of paint on the walls today, so we're real close to being able to do some finish work.
Awesome.
But my question is, have we found out how this COVID is going to affect our camp in June?
You know,
and then for me personally, my work, this COVID has affected an out-of-state work project, which we had prepared for prior to this, but now all that material is gone. And are we going to have camp and then, or anything like that?
You know, that's a really good question, and I don't have the official answer to that question, you know, to throw out there. What I can tell you right now is we know we're going to have to make some definite modifications to things, and we don't know as an organization specifically what that means yet. And I never love being in a position where I can't tell you guys what's going to happen 3 months from now. But we are all in that situation right now. And hence the usage of a lot of the tools and things we've been using to try to let you guys know what's going on. Because even me, you know, I as a school, and Senpai and I have talked about this, you know, we try to schedule things about a week at a time, because literally an announcement can be made tomorrow morning that changes everything for everybody, right? And I mean, you know, a few weeks ago, an announcement was made, and I went from running on Sunday past a vacant golf course to running past a incredibly crowded golf course because everybody wants to go golfing all of a sudden. You know, I'm thinking about it. You know, so it's well, I'm not thinking about it, but anyway, you know. But so Lewis, I don't have the answer to that exactly. What I can say is I know as an organization, the last thing that anybody wants to do is not have our summer camp. And the last thing we want to, and if we can't have it in the traditional fashion, the last thing we want to do is not have it in some capacity. And beyond that, the absolute last thing that we won't do is not have the black belt exam for those that are taking the exam. Now, it could be handled differently, but that conversation has happened. It's just everybody's in this wait and see mode. And so what I can say, you know, is anything that we've done to contribute to this year's camp, I hope that we can use to contribute to it. But if not, of course, we'll contribute it to the next one or to the next opportunity, or however it works best for everybody. But yeah, you know, from a standpoint of going to camp, believe me, we all want to go. And you know, for me, it would be the first time in over 20 years. You know, so yeah. But I promise to share the details, you know, as they come, and those are the details I have right now. So I hope that's helpful.
I do have one more. As pertaining for me particularly, I was scheduled to be out of town, and I was coming back on a vacation to be a part of this. But as this is pushed out so far, I don't think I'm going to be able to participate. But that's on an individual basis, not for the whole group.
So, well, Lewis, just to address that though, you know, since you are an individual and you are important, you know, one of the things that I'll make as a blanket statement, a lot of you have already, you know, like done your deposits and things and kind of registered for camp. And that's important. So we have you registered. In other words, we know you're interested, right? all that, and even I know a couple of you have even taken care of all the tuition for summer camp. All that has been held, and so you know the powers that be know that obviously everybody's going through unique situations. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you, Lewis, is that if it ends up where you can't go, and even though you registered for it, you can't go, you know, we're going to be working with every situation, every scenario. What we want to do is give every opportunity for people to be able to take advantage of whatever it is that we end up doing. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And obviously, if you're working and you can't do that, but it's very possible this camp could get moved, you know, to a little, you know, a slightly different date than because of everything you just said, and therefore you might be able to go, you know, anyway. So those are the things we don't know. We just know
That would be awesome because I don't want to miss it.
Well, yeah, you know, one of the questions that I've been asked is, you know, Sensei, you know, we haven't been working. When we go back to work, we might not be able to take off the time to go to camp now. I mean, everybody's situation is different. So just know that whatever your situation is, I hope you can go to camp because be a part of that experience because it's awesome, right? But beyond that, whatever you can or can't do, you know, we are not concerned about that from the perspective of registrations and things of that nature. You know, we're going to work with everybody in any way we can. So, and that's been the statement from the top, from the very beginning. I'm just relaying that statement. So I hope that's helpful to put everybody at ease at least a little bit about that, you know. So,
Thank you, Sensei.
absolutely, Louis. Thank you, Juliana. I saw your hand. What can I do for you today? Good to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, so I have gotten my first stripe for my second Q basics, and I was wondering if we would switch like to the third Q or the C group things.
Okay.
For stripes.
Yeah, that's a good question, Juliana. You know, what we're going to do as we get into like our next stripe test, as we work into our next belt test, et cetera, you know, as I mentioned, there's a transition time, right? So as far as what we're teaching, yeah, we're working on that C curriculum, as you put it. We're working on that. When it comes time to evaluate you, essentially we're going to be looking at whatever you feel most comfortable with. So is it, you know, what we've been doing? Do you feel really good about that? Okay, great. Is it what we did last month? You know, do you feel better with that, or do you feel more successful? That's what we're going to look at, and that's what we're going to be, you know, looking at on a case-by-case basis. And so, and by the way, all those things that you were doing are just as valuable and just as important. It's just maybe you're not going to need them next month. You might need them a few months from now, or you might have already needed them. You know, so yes. Yes, and yes. We'll make sure it's user friendly for everybody, and we expect there to be some time for transition. And that was a big part of helping by putting the kata requirement towards the end, because that's the part that usually takes the longest to learn. By putting it at the end, everybody has some extra time to get that accomplished. You know, even if you're in the quote unquote worst case scenario with it. You know. So does that answer your question a little bit, Juliana? Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely. That's a great question too, by the way. So I don't see any more hands raised, and I know I'm down to about my last 30 seconds of availability, but any last questions before we sign off tonight? Senpai, anything to add?
No, I'm good, guys. Thanks.
All right, cool. I think these guys just want to come out for the long haul. Thank you, guys. You're welcome to unmute if you want to say anything or say goodnight. But thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for staying the gaff. I'll leave you with a quick quote that you might see in the future. Winds blow, typhoons roar, worlds collide. I remain undisturbed. As I walk through infinity, I follow the right way. And I want to thank you for following that way with us tonight. Have a great weekend.